Right now, something just turned toward Earth. Not drifted, not by accident. It purposely changed its heading and aimed straight at us. 3 days ago, the object called 3I/ATLAS executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. A 20-plus degree shift in mere hours. In control rooms across the planet, cups froze mid-air, voices fell silent, and screens flickered with the same repeating numbers. The object had moved. And not away. Straight toward us. This isn't a comet. This isn't space junk. This is intent wrapped in machinery. And the timing? 72 hours after we tried to talk to it. That doesn't look like coincidence. That looks like a reply. But here's what makes it truly terrifying. We've been watching space for over a century. We've catalogued millions of objects, asteroids, comets, debris. They all follow predictable paths, slaves to gravity and momentum. They tumble, they crack, they fade. They obey the laws of physics, like everything else in our universe. 3I/ATLAS doesn't just break those rules, it rewrites them entirely. So tonight, we'll walk through the evidence, the signals, and the 4 terrifying scenarios specialists are fighting over right now. We'll examine the technology that shouldn't exist, the messages that chill expert code breakers to their core, and the preparations happening in bunkers around the world. Because what happens in the next 42 days will decide whether humanity is entering a new chapter or standing on the edge of something far darker. July 1st, 2024. Mount Palomar Observatory. A routine sky survey detected a faint blip moving against the star field. At first glance, it looked like any other interstellar visitor, a distant speck drifting through space. But something was wrong with its light curve. When objects tumble through space, they reflect sunlight at changing angles, creating a flickering signature that tells us about their shape and rotation. Natural objects show the chaotic dance of uncontrolled spinning. Instead, observers saw something that made them check their instruments twice, a perfectly steady brightness curve. It was rotating like clockwork, one astronomer noted. 3.7 hours exactly, no variation, no wobble. Like someone had built a gyroscope the size of a skyscraper. Global observatories locked on within hours. The Arecibo Successor Array, the Very Large Array in New Mexico, and the Square Kilometre Array in Australia all pivoted to study this newcomer. What they found defied every model of natural space objects. Spectral analysis revealed a surface composition that read like an engineering manifest. Nickel-iron alloys in precise ratios, traces of rare earth elements arranged in patterns that don't occur naturally, and a reflectivity so uniform it suggested active surface maintenance. A metallurgist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory put it bluntly, "We're not looking at a rock that's been tumbling through space for millions of years. We're looking at something that was manufactured recently." Then came the electromagnetic signature. Most space objects are electromagnetically quiet, cold rocks reflecting sunlight. But 3I/ATLAS hummed with activity. Radio telescopes detected organized patterns in its emissions, mathematical sequences, prime numbers, binary counting systems. The kind of structured information that screams artificial intelligence. For months, response teams tried to answer. They beamed back primes, simple sequences, patterns meant to bridge the gulf between minds. Basic mathematics, the universal language. "Hello, we can count too." The reply came slowly. Tiny shifts in phase, deliberate changes in frequency, like someone learning our dialect, testing our comprehension. Subtle responses until they weren't. September 15th changed everything. An overnight shift at the Atacama Large Millimeter Array detected 3I/ATLAS suddenly going active. Not the gentle mathematical exchanges they'd grown accustomed to, but a data burst so complex it took 3 supercomputers working in parallel just to decode the structure. What emerged was breathtaking, a 3-dimensional star map rendered in pure mathematics. Not crude pictographs, but precise astronomical coordinates showing nearby star systems as they appeared 40,000 years ago. A temporal perspective that would require millennia of careful observation to construct. It was like receiving a cosmic GPS coordinate system, one researcher explained to the emergency session of the International Astronomical Union. But embedded in the star map was something that made our blood run cold. Hidden within the stellar coordinates was a detailed breakdown of a system 12.3 light-years away, a red dwarf star with 3 planets. The inner world was marked with symbols that translation algorithms identified as engineered or constructed, an artificial planet, or one that had been completely terraformed. But the truly chilling detail was how our own solar system appeared in their map. Earth was clearly marked, surrounded by precise orbital data for every satellite we'd ever launched. They knew our technology, our capabilities, our exact position in space. And beside Earth's coordinates sat a single symbol that made cryptographers around the world lose sleep, a designation that translated most closely to target or objective. 3 separate linguistic analysis teams reached the same conclusion independently. This wasn't a casual label. In the context of the message's structure, it read like a mission parameter. Within hours of decoding this revelation, emergency protocols activated across multiple space agencies. The European Space Agency quietly recalled a Mars probe crew from pre-launch preparations. NASA postponed a planned asteroid mining demonstration. The Chinese space program went into complete communications blackout because 3 days after that message was fully decoded, 3I/ATLAS moved. September 18th, 1423 UTC. The Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex in California detected the first anomalous readings. Electromagnetic activity around 3I/ATLAS spiked beyond anything they'd measured before. Plasma discharges rippled across its hull in perfect geometric patterns, not chaotic solar flare-type activity, but precisely timed sequences that looked disturbingly like an engine firing pattern. A plasma physicist consulting for the Deep Space Network watched the readings in growing amazement. The energy density was off the charts. This object, roughly the size of 6 city blocks, was generating power levels equivalent to a small star, and it was doing it with surgical precision. For 2 hours and 17 minutes, the energy pulses continued. Each burst lasted exactly 1.3 seconds, with intervals of 4.7 seconds between them. The mathematical precision was inhuman, literally. When the sequence ended, tracking stations around the world reported the impossible. 3I/ATLAS had changed course by 23.4 degrees. Not gradually, not following any known trajectory mechanics, but in a single controlled maneuver that violated every principle of orbital dynamics. To put this in perspective, when we want to change a spacecraft's trajectory by even a few degrees, it requires months of planning, precise burn calculations, and enormous fuel expenditure. The physics of momentum conservation means you can't just turn in space without pushing against something. 3I/ATLAS had somehow altered its path through space without visible propellant, without reaction mass, and without generating the heat signature that should accompany such an energy release. It's like watching someone rewrite the laws of physics in real time, said a propulsion engineer at SpaceX. Our best guess is that they're manipulating space-time itself, essentially making space flow in the direction they want to travel. The new trajectory calculations were even more disturbing than the method. 3I/ATLAS was now on a direct intercept course with Earth's orbital path. Projected arrival, October 31st, 2025 at 2317 UTC. Close approach distance, 384,000 kilometers, exactly the average distance to our moon. The precision was unsettling. This wasn't a rough flyby or a gravitational slingshot maneuver. This was a scheduled appointment, calculated to the minute. When the course change was confirmed, the response was swift and carefully orchestrated. Publicly, space agencies maintained calm. Press releases spoke of interesting interstellar phenomena and ongoing scientific observation. Standard diplomatic language designed to avoid panic. Privately, the global space community went into crisis mode. Within 12 hours, the International Space Station's crew received routine maintenance orders. that required them to power down non-essential systems and prepare for potential communication blackouts. 3 separate satellite networks quietly shifted to alternate orbital positions. A planned commercial lunar mission was delayed indefinitely due to technical complications. But the real action was happening in places the public never sees. Deep underground facilities, built during the Cold War and expanded in the decades since, suddenly came alive with activity. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex in Colorado, which had been operating on skeleton crews for years, was fully staffed within 72 hours. Similar facilities in Russia, China, and the European Union showed unprecedented electromagnetic activity as their communication arrays came online. Sources within the defense establishment, speaking on condition of anonymity, revealed a pattern of preparation that suggested this wasn't entirely unexpected. There are files, one Pentagon analyst confided, going back decades. Objects that didn't behave like natural phenomena, trajectories that suggested intelligence. Most were dismissed as sensor errors or classified as weather balloons. But some people kept watching. Some people kept records. The implication was chilling. Had 3I/ATLAS visited before? Were there other objects, other encounters that had been carefully hidden from public knowledge? Historical researchers began combing through archival records with new eyes. Strange lights reported by sailors in the 18th century. Unexplained atmospheric phenomena recorded by early astronomers. Myths and legends from ancient civilizations that spoke of sky gods and star visitors. Patterns emerged that were difficult to dismiss as coincidence. Meanwhile, radio telescopes around the world received new operational priorities. Instead of searching for distant pulsars or mapping cosmic background radiation, they were tasked with continuous monitoring of 3I/ATLAS and the space around it. Because as October approached, it became clear that 3I/ATLAS wasn't traveling alone. Picture a machine the size of 6 city blocks, its surface seamless like a single piece of grown metal. No rivets, no seams, no hatches or docking ports. Radar imaging reveals an object that appears to have been manufactured as one continuous structure. Impossible with any technology we understand. When 3I/ATLAS moves, there's no visible propulsion system, no chemical rockets, no ion drives, no nuclear pulse engines. Its method of locomotion defies our understanding of how objects move through space. It doesn't push against anything, explains one engineer. Traditional propulsion works by expelling mass in one direction to create momentum in the other. Newton's third law, for every action, an equal and opposite reaction. But 3I/ATLAS seems to manipulate the fabric of space itself. The energy efficiency is what truly terrifies engineers. Our most advanced spacecraft convert less than 5% of their fuel into useful propulsion. The rest is lost as heat, light, and waste products. 3I/ATLAS achieved its massive course correction while radiating virtually no waste heat. It operates with a thermodynamic efficiency that approaches 100%, something our physics says is impossible. But perhaps most disturbing is what deep field observations have revealed about its construction materials. Spectrographic analysis suggests the hull contains isotopes that don't occur naturally in our solar system. Elements with atomic structures that would require controlled stellar nucleosynthesis to produce. They're using the cores of stars as foundries, one astronomer noted, still struggling to believe the data. This isn't just advanced technology. This is technology from a civilization that treats stellar engineering as routine manufacturing. The implications cascade outward like ripples in a pond. If 3I/ATLAS represents standard technology for its builders, what must their cities look like, their fleets, their weapons? For every human engineer studying the data, one thought echoes: if this is merely their probe, what are the builders themselves capable of? But 3I/ATLAS isn't traveling alone. October 3rd brought a discovery that shattered any remaining hope this was an isolated incident. Deep space monitoring stations began detecting secondary objects, smaller but following eerily similar trajectories toward our solar system. The first was designated Object B, detected by the Hubble Space Telescope as it passed Jupiter's orbit. Roughly half the size of 3I/ATLAS, it exhibited the same impossible propulsion characteristics, the same seamless hull construction, the same electromagnetic signature that screamed artificial intelligence. Then came Object C, caught by the James Webb Space Telescope as it performed what appeared to be methodical reconnaissance sweeps of Saturn's rings. It spent 18 hours analyzing something in the ice particles before moving on, the kind of detailed survey behavior that suggested scientific rather than military intent. Object D emerged from behind Mars on October 7th, moving in a spiral pattern that allowed it to scan both Martian moons in detail. Unlike the others, this one occasionally broadcast short-range signals back toward deeper space, as if reporting findings to some distant command structure. By October 10th, 7 distinct objects had been catalogued, all converging on Earth's orbital path with mathematical precision that ruled out coincidence. But their behavior patterns revealed a disturbing level of coordination that went beyond simple navigation. They maintained perfect formation spacing, exactly 4.7 million kilometers apart, arranged in a pattern that military radar specialists recognized with growing dread. A classic escort formation used by naval fleets throughout human history. Someone, somewhere, had studied our tactics and was implementing them on a cosmic scale. "It's not just a fleet," whispered one analyst during a classified Pentagon briefing. "It's a fleet that understands military doctrine. They've been watching us fight wars for centuries." But the escort objects revealed something even more disturbing than their military arrangement. Each vessel was fundamentally different, not just in size but in basic design philosophy. Spectroscopic analysis revealed hull materials that had no common elements between ships, energy signatures that suggested completely different power sources, and propulsion methods that each violated physics in their own unique ways. Object B appeared to be made from crystalline structures that shouldn't be able to maintain cohesion in the vacuum of space. Object C showed evidence of living metal, hull surfaces that shifted and adapted like organic tissue. Object D generated no detectable energy signature at all, moving through space in complete thermodynamic silence as if it existed partially outside normal space-time. "We're not looking at ships from one world," concluded a xenoarchaeologist consulting for the CIA. "We're looking at a coalition, multiple civilizations, each representing completely different evolutionary paths, working together on this expedition." The implications were staggering. If accurate, this wasn't first contact with one alien species, but with an entire galactic confederation. Earth hadn't just attracted attention. It had been selected for coordinated intervention by beings representing potentially dozens of star systems across hundreds of light years. Radio telescopes detected constant cross-chatter between the objects, complex data streams flowing between ships in mathematical languages so sophisticated that our best quantum computers couldn't even identify the underlying logical structures. Whatever they were discussing, they were sharing vast amounts of information, coordinating strategies, preparing for scenarios that required unprecedented cooperation between civilizations separated by the void of space. The communication patterns suggested something even more unsettling. They were adapting their approach based on observations of human behavior. Signal frequencies shifted after major news broadcasts. Formation patterns adjusted following military exercises. They weren't just coming to Earth, they were actively studying us, modifying their plans based on real-time intelligence gathering. Ground-based observatories noticed the most disturbing phenomenon of all. The escort objects occasionally disappeared from sensors entirely, only to reappear hours later in completely different positions. Not moving faster than light, the relativistic distortions would be detectable. They simply vanished from one location and materialized in another as if distance itself could be negotiated rather than traveled. The first disappearance lasted 3 minutes. Object F vanished from behind Venus and reappeared near Earth's moon, having somehow crossed 25 million kilometers of space in less time than it takes to make coffee. When it rematerialized, It was oriented differently, suggesting it had rotated during transit through whatever dimensional shortcut it had used. If 3I/ATLAS represented technology centuries ahead of humanity, its escorts suggested capabilities that transcended our understanding of reality itself. Spacefolding. Dimensional manipulation, technologies that treated the fundamental constants of physics as mere suggestions. Intelligence analysts worked around the clock to decode the formation's ultimate purpose. The escort pattern could indicate protection, multiple species cooperating to shield a crucial diplomatic vessel during humanity's first real contact with galactic civilization. Each ship might represent a different member world, here to witness or participate in Earth's formal introduction to cosmic society. But the military precision, the coordinated surveillance, the strategic positioning around our planet's orbital path suggested something far more ominous. This could represent overwhelming force, a galactic police action ensuring that whatever 3I/ATLAS planned to accomplish, no earthly power could interfere. The answer would determine whether October 31st marked humanity's graduation to galactic citizenship or our final judgment before extinction. Additional analysis revealed something that made even the most optimistic xenobiologists lose sleep: the fleet's approach vector. They weren't coming from one direction, suggesting a single point of origin. They had emerged from multiple star systems simultaneously, converging on Earth in perfect timing that must have been coordinated across interstellar distances. The level of planning required was beyond human comprehension. Light-speed communications between their home systems would take years or decades. Yet they had somehow synchronized their arrival to the minute, suggesting either faster-than-light communication networks or planning that began before human civilization discovered fire. But perhaps most terrifying was the growing realization that this level of coordination could only mean one thing. Earth had been under systematic observation for millennia. You don't organize a multi-species intervention overnight. This required detailed intelligence, strategic planning, resource allocation, and diplomatic negotiations between civilizations we couldn't even imagine. Archaeological teams began re-examining ancient sites with new urgency. Stone circles that aligned with stars, cave paintings depicting impossible beings descending from the sky. Myths from disconnected cultures that shared eerily similar details about sky gods who judged civilizations. What if these weren't legends? What if they were historical records of previous interventions? What if Earth had been visited before, assessed, and placed on some kind of cosmic monitoring list? The escort fleet's behavior suggested they knew exactly what they were dealing with. No cautious approach, no hesitant first contact protocols. They moved with the confidence of beings who had encountered species like humanity before and knew exactly what to expect. We weren't discovering them. They were finally ready to reveal themselves. And the countdown to revelation had already begun. 39 days remain. Every day that passes brings clearer signals, more refined data, and deeper questions. The latest tracking models confirm 3I/ATLAS will pass within lunar distance on October 31st at exactly 23:17 UTC, Halloween night, when the boundary between the known and unknown traditionally grows thin. That proximity will give it 3 unobstructed days to study Earth with resolution we can barely imagine. To map our cities, track our militaries, catalogue our technology, and assess our capabilities as either allies or threats. Governments continue their quiet preparations. Some military satellites have gone dark entirely. Emergency bunkers report unusual staffing levels. But the uncomfortable truth remains. If 3I/ATLAS intends harm, our defenses are meaningless. We launch chemical rockets while it manipulates space-time. We split atoms while it engineers stars. So we return to the fundamental questions that will define humanity's future. Why now? What triggered its response after decades of radio silence? Did our transmissions finally cross some cosmic threshold, or were we simply selected from a list of targets compiled long ago? Why the elaborate first contact protocol? The mathematics, the star maps, the precise timing. If this is invasion, why announce it? If this is diplomacy, why target us? And perhaps most critically, are we alone in this? How many other worlds have received similar visits? How many passed whatever test we're about to face? We are 49 days away from answering questions that have haunted humanity since we first looked up at the night sky and wondered if anyone was looking back. The cosmos has been watching, and now it's coming to call. On October 31st, 2025, the masks come off. For trick-or-treaters collecting candy, and for a species about to discover its place in a universe far more crowded and far more dangerous than we ever imagined. Mark the date, because the countdown has already begun and there's no turning back. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and remember, we're all about to make history or become it.